start by taking you back 2 years ago. I'm standing in the school hall, surrounded by other parents. The new head teacher, Sarah, stepped up onto the stage and she said something which made the whole crowd go silent. She said, "My reception numbers are critically low." And so this was at St. Augustine's, my kids' school. And it wasn't just in reception. Families across the years had been leaving. So the numbers on roll had fallen from 210 pupils down to 155. We'd seen the impact ourselves. So my daughter, Matilda, had seen her two best friends leave. And you find that one parent mentions they're considering leaving, and then suddenly everyone is questioning whether they could stay. We even started questioning. We love the school. Our kids, Harrison and Matilda, are absolutely thriving there. But as the head teacher, Sarah, talked about, she was new to the post, but she was already considering really good, difficult decisions. She was looking at whether she was going to have to merge classes. She was looking at potential redundancies. And because she was already running a deficit budget, what the trust really needed to see was signals that she could turn this around. But at that parent meeting where she'd called us in, she said that she had a plan, but she desperately needed a little bit of help. And because I've got a background in local community marketing, I put my hand up. So just a quick intro to who I am. My name is Chris Norfield. My background isn't in education, actually. I've worked for the last 15 years in various different roles, all around marketing and supporting small organizations such as sports clubs, businesses, charities, to get their message out locally. So using digital marketing, using in-person marketing, but all about trying to reach the right people in your local community and get them to see what is special about your club, your business, your charity. And you know what? I thought maybe I could try the same thing for her primary school. So after that meeting, I sat down with Sarah and together we came up with a 3-step plan to try and recover those pupil numbers. And here's what happened. So she went from running open days where hardly anyone showed up to 3 fully booked open days in the autumn, plus every week she was running new school tours. After implementing this, the reception intake jumped from 15 children to 27, bearing in mind it was a pan of 30. And across 3 months after we implemented this, 39 extra children joined in year. And the important thing was this wasn't done with a kind of a fancy agency campaign. It wasn't a complicated marketing setup. What we did was we created a system that was designed for busy school leaders and kind of school staff, whether that's middle leaders or people in the office, that they could actually implement and roll out. And because of that, it's a system that I believe that any school can use. If you get Head Teacher Update, the magazine, you might have seen Sarah actually wrote about what we did in the September edition. There's Sarah, the head at St. Augustine's, and that's Matilda, my daughter. And the system that we set up there and used has now been installed and used at lots of different schools now across the country. And we're seeing exactly the same kind of results. So Hollingwood Primary, they've got a pan of 45. I worked with them in sort of September, October last year. They've just got their numbers through. So they've gone from 35 last year up to 56 first choice applications. So they know they're full. St. Mary's Primary down in Dorset, they had 18 last year and a pan of 30, 35 first choice applications this year. So an increase of 17 more people applying to join the school. And Paulsbrook Primary, tiny village school. They've always had low numbers, but they've gone from 4 last year through to 13 first choice applications. And a very strong number actually are second choice as well. So what we're going to cover today, I'm going to look at what are those kind of big mistakes that are made when schools are trying to promote themselves, so that you can be aware of those. You can know that you're not going to fall into that same trap. I'm going to look at the 3 things that actually make an impact on driving first choice applications. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to do now before the next admission cycle so that you're not scrambling again in autumn. In fact, I want to give you something today that gives you a real impact quickly. And finally, at the end, if you resonate with the content I share, if you find it useful, then I'm introducing a brand new program. It's called the 90-Day Pupil Numbers Fix. And it's my offer to help a small number of head teachers personally install this system and get it working before the end of this spring term. But let's start by just sort of seeing, are you in a similar situation to the schools that I've worked with? And I'm just going to play a little bit of what Sarah said when we started working together. And if this resonates, if this feels like something that's happening in your school, please pop in the chat if it sounds like what's going on at your school.
The overall situation in the school this time, well, September last year, was that we had suffered a loss of quite a significant number of pupils. That was through various reasons going on internally in school the year that preceded that, which meant that we were starting the school year far under plan. We should be 210 children, and we started the year with 105. I think for me, the first and the biggest barrier was capacity within school to market the school in a way that would be profitable from our point of view in terms of reaching out to local families and beyond. And also the knowledge and expertise. I lead a team of teachers and educationalists. We don't come from necessarily a marketing background. So knowing where to begin and how to catch that, we had very basic ideas of us sending flyers out or trying to get it more visible within the local community. But to have a strategic approach to that felt like a big obstacle as to what we should do next to make big dents into the numbers that we needed to fill.
So that might sound similar. What really came across to me was just what a difficult situation Sarah was in. She was trying to do promotion and marketing and make posters and leaflets on her weekends. She would email me 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night during the week. It really felt like actually it was a situation where she needed a clear plan, she needed guidance and support. And it's what I've heard from a lot of schools. I know that you're trying your best to promote your school, but you're operating in a really difficult environment. So there's not enough time in the day. Marketing isn't your job. So as Sarah said, you're an educator. You don't have time to being a designer, to write copy for ads, to work out exactly how to get that information out there to the local parents. But you do want to really showcase what makes your school special. But probably the biggest external impact at the moment is the fact that actually the audience you're trying to reach is shrinking, and it is shrinking fast. So here's that picture on falling birth rates. What you can see here is number of births per year. And this figure is around your kind of current year 6. This will be your current year R. Oh, sorry, this will be year R from last year. And this is your intake that have just come in to year R. So actually, year 6 are now here. Year R are just down here. And what you can see, and you might be experiencing your school, is that you're fuller in Key Stage 2. And that is because simply there was a much bigger birth rate and it's been dropping off. So what I see a lot now is actually schools, when year 6s and year 5s are leaving, they're being replaced by much smaller intakes. And when that happens year on year, those overall numbers on roll drop quite significantly. So even if you're doing your absolute best to recruit in reception, you're still losing big numbers across there. And I'm hearing some troubling misconceptions. And it seems to be schools are being told by their local authorities that it's a low birth year, hopefully it'll pick up next year. But I think if you really look at the numbers, there is a very sharp drop-off coming. So you could see it here, at this last bit here, so this year and then next year. This is from the local authority pupil forecast nationally. And this is your intake this year. Okay, so it was a slight drop on last year. But look what happens next year. And in 2028, 29, there are significant drop-offs happening nationally. Now, there will be obviously real kind of local variations, and there'll be some areas where absolutely people are oversubscribed. But generally, the environment you're in is getting much more difficult, which is going to mean more competition for fewer families. And that leads to schools having to merge, schools closing, and schools having to make really difficult decisions about what they do. And the real problem is that as soon as there is talk of schools merging or closing, actually numbers take a real nosedive. As soon as that kind of is floated, then actually it's a really hard, difficult situation to recover from. So what you need to do is get ahead of that and really make every effort you can to try and showcase what makes your school special so that local families understand, they know, and they want to choose your school. But given that you've got limited time, limited experience in kind of marketing promotion, what should you do to reach those local families and support them to choose your school? Well, here's what we did at St. Augustine's. So in that meeting, Sarah had said, my idea is we're going to invest in a new forest school provision. So we've got smaller classes, but actually we're going to use this chance to put that last little bit of funding that we've got left to a brand new forest school. And we'll use that as the big idea that will drive new families to join us. And I was really excited about that. But actually the feeling I had was that kind of knot in my stomach. I felt really worried because I knew that this is where most schools go wrong. So the biggest mistake that schools make is assuming that parents can see what is going on inside the school, that what makes that school special is being transferred out to people in the local community. You'd be surprised how little current parents know about what day-to-day life is like inside the school. And when it comes to prospective parents, that's even less. So in fact, when I work with schools and I get lots more families visiting them for the first time, the number one comment they say to me is, parents came in and just said, we didn't even realize your school was here. And so particularly if your school is maybe tucked away down a cul-de-sac or not on a main road, unless you're being really proactive, then there are many local families in your local area who could choose your school, but they're simply not even considering it yet. So that's your first challenge. Okay, you've got to get visibility to get prospective parents to know about you and start considering you. But the second challenge is perception, because those people who do know about you in your local area who could choose you, they will already have an existing perception. And that perception is not going to be based on facts. It's going to be formed from what they've heard from others, from small interactions. I mean, just to demonstrate this, when we were looking for a primary school for my kid, for Matilda, when she was about to start, my wife and I, we looked at a few schools. There was one in particular in the village that we didn't actually get to go and see. It was during COVID, so we couldn't go along and visit. But I have such a clear story in my head about what that school is like. And it's based on a couple of conversations with friends or family. Someone said, oh, yeah, the parents there are a little bit cliquey. And someone else said, oh, no, you know what? That school is only focused on academic performance. And that was 5 years ago. But that perception is still in my head. And I find that we're guilty of perpetuating that when we talk to others. And then we confirm that. And that then continues to get spread. So there is a perception out there that is probably outdated. So just think about that for a second. There are local families who are deciding against your school without ever seeing it, without seriously considering it. And it's based not on facts, but on assumptions. And these kind of hearsay, outdated perceptions quietly steer away families before they've had the chance to actually see what it's like in your school now, what makes it special, and why actually they should consider choosing you. And the truth is that many of those families might actually choose your school if they visited and you were able to showcase what it is that makes your school special. And so therefore, your biggest opportunity to increase pupil numbers is to maximize the number of families who could choose your school that come in and visit, because then you have the ultimate chance to showcase what makes you special. So when we put together that 3-step pupil numbers recovery plan, this became our goal. Maximize the number of families who could choose our school that come in and visit. Everything we do, any marketing we do, has to drive that particular goal. So let me just take a breath, and can I ask you in the chat, I want you to answer a question for me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in what you do currently with marketing and promotion that you could actually reach local parents and get them to visit your school? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 means I've got no idea if it kind of what to do, what is working, does it drive people in? 10 means I know for sure that the stuff I do gets people in. I'm going to take a quick look at the numbers as they come in. Okay, so we've got Tim 7, Lindsay 5, 6, 4, Sarah's a 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 7, 3. Okay, April 8. April, pop in the chat if you've got some good things that you know definitely work and drive visits. That'd be great to see. But I'm seeing lots of 2s, 4s, 5s. Yeah, so generally lower confident. We've got a 5 here from Sue. We have the issue that local families believe small schools give their children more attention. So yeah. So you there is a perception out there, and that is formed on very basic information. Okay, so we've generally got under 5s, a lack of clarity on exactly what it is that you should do to drive people in. April, you got Facebook and the Town Magazine. Okay, great. Yeah, we will touch on Facebook. That's good to know that's working for you. So here's the plan. This is what we put together. As I said, we have the goal, which is to maximize the number of local families, those who could come in and visit, and show them what makes us special. The outcome is that more families select our school as their first choice application, or they join as an in-year transfer. So that's the ultimate outcome that we're looking to, which means we don't just look at the visit, we're actually going to look at that whole journey where we support people along from first hearing about us, considering us, visiting, through to that period where they're then considering us against other schools. And those 3 steps that we're going to use are called SOS. Stand out, outreach, and support. And it really is a journey that we support people along. So I'll run through each of those, and I'm going to give the examples from St. Augustine's or some of the other schools that have helped, just to kind of bring this to life to make it make sense. So stand out. We have to give parents a clear reason to visit the school. So the crux of this step is about you uncovering what is it that your school genuinely does better than anyone else locally. And it can't be something generic, and it has to be something that you can explain really clearly in language that parents instantly understand. It has to be a hook. It is your standout story. Okay, it's the reason then that parents will think, oh, actually, I'll go and I'll book a visit to go and see that. And it's more powerful than that, because if they come in and they see it and you showcase it really well, it will become the story that they repeat to others when they say, we picked this school because parents pick up on these very tiny examples and things that happen in the school that they then use as their internal justification and their external justification for why they have made that step. And if you do that proactively, then you can start to influence the way that your school is talked about locally. You can take control of that narrative, take control of that perception, rather than leaving it up to those particular one-to-one word of mouth discussions that go on. So here's a couple of examples of just utilizing that and really focusing on trying to make a standout feature accessible and understandable to parents locally. So first one on the left is St. Augustine's. Obviously, Sarah had talked about making the forest school the focus, but most schools have forest schools. So you can't just go out there and say, we have a forest school. Actually, what you need to do is really link it to the outcomes that parents want. Okay, and you need to be able to showcase it in a way that actually shows what is it about that is unique. So there you look at the wording and the messaging, and you make sure that you're linking it to the overall outcome. And then you make sure that actually, if you have something which is genuinely unique in the way you do it, you capture it on pictures and video, and you bring it to life through quotes from parents, from children, from teachers. Second example on the right, many schools I talk to talk about the way they deliver the curriculum, the way they deliver learning. But actually, quite often, the way that they are showcasing that is in exactly the same way and wording that you've put on the website to meet the Ofsted requirements for talking about the curriculum. So you talk about intent and implementation, and actually the wording that is used is completely off-putting to parents. and they simply cannot get their head around what that might mean or why that might mean. Actually, the way you're teaching the curriculum is special. And so one of the ways that we've done that in a school is looking at actually focusing on the hands-on curriculum. So actually showing that through active learning and experiments and memorable experiences, words that actually conjure up images in parents' minds so they can instantly understand, actually, you know what I really like about that school is the fact that they don't just do learning sitting at desks, but they do those memorable experiences that really help lock it in. So stand out is your first step. Inside the 90-day pupil numbers fixed program that I'm going to introduce at the end, I actually give hands-on support where you can understand and uncover what your standout feature could be and turn it into parent-friendly messaging. And it's all about that kind of real key step of trying to find out what is uniquely, genuinely special compared to your local competitors, and how can you turn that into messaging that parents instantly get. But because you've joined today, what I want to do is give you a special bonus, which is my Uncover Your Standout Feature worksheet template. So I'm going to pop this in the chat. This should then enable you to download it as a Word document. And basically it talks you through the steps to do internally, where you look at identifying what you think your strengths are, what parents think your strengths are, what kids think your strengths are, comparing that to your competitors, your schools in your local area, and being able to come up with a prioritized list of actually the strengths that really stand out. Then what you need to do is take those and you need to turn those into parent-facing messaging that makes it really instantly understandable why they should choose your school. So once you've got that story, once you've kind of figured that one thing that we're going to talk about that will drive people in to see the school, and that when they come in, we're going to really showcase, you need to make sure that the local families actually see that. You genuinely just need to get that story in front of the eyeballs of the right people. And so here's how we figured out what to do at St. Augustine's. I came in to meet with Sarah. I met with Jo, her deputy, and Ellen, who works in the office. And I came in that first time with a big long list of all the things that I knew from marketing. I thought we could do let's prospectus, let's do events, let's look at kind of website SEO, maybe press releases. And I sat with them, and it very quickly became obvious that this isn't going to work in a busy primary school. As I said, kind of Sarah and Jo are squeezing marketing tasks into the evening and weekends. When I sat with Ellen in the office, we had 20 minutes together, and I swear 15 times she was interrupted by people coming in, asking for stuff, kids, the phone going. They don't have time, and I know you don't have time to work on a complicated campaign. So I threw that list in the bin and I took it right back to basics. What are the things that we can do quickly and efficiently to get this in front of the exact right people? So something simple, quick, and here's the core, the basic things that we did. So we instantly upgraded their poster assets. So these are posters that were going to get printed and that they're going to send out digitally. So we made several improvements to make sure that actually these are going to be eye-catching and they are going to drive the action we want. I then worked with them to give them a distribution plan to make sure that they weren't wasting time or budget just sending them out or putting them in the local supermarket. Actually, they got them in front of the right people in the most efficient way. Then we used Facebook, and we used targeted ads that reached hundreds of local families in our exact catchment area. Again, the most efficient way to put our standout messaging right in front of those eyeballs of the people that we wanted to see. And then finally, we set up and upgraded their social media profiles so that as people were looking and considering and they discovered the school, actually instantly there was a slick, professional looking information about the school that they were able to then highlight that standout feature. And you know what the absolute key was? It was making sure that anything we spent time doing, any outreach, had to lead to parents being encouraged to do one thing, which was book a school visit. So we thought through it really carefully to make sure that every time someone saw an advert from us, that within one click or one scan on their phone, they were able to get in touch with us and book a visit as easily and simply as possible. So inside the 90-day pupil numbers fix, as I talked about, I've got a whole set of templates and tools where I help set up your outreach channels, provide sort of step-by-step guidance on how to reach parents in the quickest and the simplest way. So you don't have to waste time figuring it all out yourself. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. And that leads me on to support. So the absolute quickest way to make an impact on pupil numbers is to just make it easier for parents to book a visit and be more proactive in supporting them at every step of that journey. So you just have to think through, how are people going to discover the school? How we're going to make it simple to book and attend a visit? And then the really important bit, how do we proactively support them and reassure them and continue to reinforce our standout story to help them feel confident in choosing you? And that's got to be from first contact through to the first visit, right through to the first day where someone is starting at the school. Because if you can do that, then parents are going to feel guided, supported, and much more confident. And genuinely, parents are making decisions, particularly for reception, but on a very kind of small amount of information. And there will be some who absolutely only look at Ofsted, or they only look at certain key things. But most parents are going on the feel. They're going on how their interactions are with the staff, how the school felt when they came in, what activities they saw happening. And one thing they are definitely also looking at is how organised, how supportive, how reassuring were any of the communications I had with that school. And that's where you have a massive opportunity to upgrade what you do compared to other people around you. So again, what I do with schools is I kind of really try and help them to give them the templates for email and phone scripts and lots of tactics to help you kind of convert those who are considering you into actually those who join you and apply. So let's put that plan together on a page, and I'll give you a quick summary of that whole approach so you can see how we used it and how you can use it too. So the big idea that sits underneath all of this is that within your local area, there are still families who could choose your school, but they never do, simply because they haven't yet been convinced of what makes it special. So if you can reach them, if you can get them in through the door, and if you can showcase what it is about your school that is special, then you have a real chance to change that. So your recovery plan is going to start by looking at, what is it that we can really showcase that makes us stand out? How are we going to get that out to the right parents in the most efficient time and way possible? And how do we support those parents as they are considering the school? And how do you make them feel confident in choosing your school? And if you can install this basic system now, then what it is actually not a set of tactics. It is not you looking at 20 ways to increase your website rankings on Google. It is a system that means you can confidently build on it every year. You can make it better by adding more features, by adding more outreach channels, but you've got confidence in your core approach of being able to say what makes your school special, getting it out to the right people, and supporting them to make a choice. So when Sarah did this at St. Augustine's, she just had one standout feature. We just had the one outreach channel we ran on Facebook, and we had really basic parent support. But that alone took her from 15 to 27 first choice applications. So that was for reception last year. The second time, we upskilled her team so that actually they had a bit more time to think about what were the additional standout features that they could start to showcase. And they were able to capture more video and photos and parent quotes that brought those to life. So they kind of had a much more developed standout stories. Then they were able to increase the number of outreach channels they did, because again, they knew what they were doing and they were able to reach more people, and they were able to upgrade that support. So actually they could do more to support people to visit and to consider it. And so then the numbers just in, so for this September, we're now up to over pan. So the school now has a waiting list. She's confident that she's gone from 15 to a full reception just in 2 cycles. But you do need to be aware of some unintended consequences. So something unexpected happened when I worked with Sarah. So we didn't just boost that reception intake. She started getting a lot more in-year transfers too. And it was because families had suddenly noticed, oh, hang on a minute, something's going on at this school. Maybe we should go and have a look. So people who were already thinking about moving their child, this just gave them that extra push to, oh, I'll come in and see it. I'll book and have a visit. And when they came in and they saw what made it special, actually, over the first 3 months, 39 in-year transfers joined. And at the moment, Sarah now has a kind of a regular sequence in terms of getting school visits in and getting people to join throughout the year. And even though the top of her school, she's got year 6, year 5, year 4, very full every year leaving, she's gradually bringing up that reception and she's gradually bringing in more people joining in-year transfers. And what Sarah said to me is, what I really needed was a plan. She's like, as a head teacher, I need a plan. I want something strategic. It kind of felt daunting beforehand, trying to do marketing on top of everything else. But following a plan feels manageable, and it gave her confidence. And that's what I've really tried to do with all the resources that I've created and with the Pupil Numbers Fix program, is to try and break down what is it that you can do that you know is going to be effective, and how can you do it in a way which fits in with a busy school where you do not have the time or the headspace to be figuring stuff out. So here is my special bit of information, which is the first time I've actually gone out with this, but it is a complete reframe of how to think about admissions. And it is that the 15th of January was the application deadline for parents for reception, but that should not be the deadline in your head. You do not need to sit around and wait and hope that next year the numbers will be up and we can do something then. Actually, there is a completely different deadline that you should be working to, which is the 1st of October, 2026. That's the day of the school census. That's the day when the numbers who have joined your school in September and any time between now and September get locked in and feed into your budget. So actually, there is stuff you can do between now and National Offer Day to increase those applications, to convert more people who are second and third choice to actually choose you. By the summer, you can start adding more in-year transfers. So actually your numbers on roll are starting to edge up already. And in September, before that census day, you can get in early and you can start running open days, and you can actually pick up people in reception, families who are having second thoughts, having started. And if you can get them in before Thursday, the 1st of October, then all of those numbers go into your budget. And if you have a nursery feeder, then you can even use the same system to fill empty spaces right now and increase your pool of potential students who are going to feed into reception. So again, one of the things that I look at inside the program is how can we proactively take advantage of these moments now outside of the traditional application period to boost those school numbers. And the key mindset shift, key thing I'd like you to take away from today is I want you to feel confident that you can take action to influence the numbers on your roll. You're in a challenging environment, I'm not going to lie. And that graph at the start, where it shows just how steep those numbers dropping off are, mean that there are going to be less families, but you can make a difference. And I'll share from Chris, who's at Hollingwood Primary, who I worked with and who has filled his reception for next year. He said to me, when I thought about this, I said, if you can keep on doing the same thing, you're not going to see an improvement. He said, you've got to work at it. And I'll just play a quick video of what his experience was.
Your pan, which clearly has a negative impact on the budget and therefore has a negative impact on the provision that you can provide, not just in reception but throughout school. So my name's Chris Stewart, I'm head teacher at Hollingwood Primary School. So we've got a pupil admission number of 45 at Hollingwood. The first year we were quite low in terms of numbers. We had 28 admissions into reception, and then last year we were slightly up on that with 35. But as you're looking at 10 children lower than your PAN. So we were in a bit of a pickle as to what to do next. We were certainly having conversations at trust level as to whether to reduce our PAN to 30. We sort of signed up to that free half-an-hour initial session, and I spoke to Cara, our business manager, and just said, look, if we get one child in, then the additional cost will be more than worth it. And as it's turned out, it's been incredibly successful. To get an extra 21 children in the course of a year, when this was supposedly be, particularly in Derbyshire and Chesterfield, the worst year out of all of them, is transformational. It's really exciting because obviously you want a full school. You think about the resources that you can give the children, and it's not that we'll be shopping at Harrods now that we're full, but actually we can give the children a much better education in all the year groups, not just in reception.
And it was really gratifying working with Chris and seeing the impact and actually seeing that it affected the whole school, not just reception, bringing in those numbers. So I want to go back to that question and see how you're feeling now and think about that mindset. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident now are you that you could actually have an impact on how parents talk about your school, that you could have an impact on getting people in? So let's see those numbers. Okay. Jenna, Lorna, 6. Okay, so far we've seen all above 5s, which is good. Okay, we've shifted slightly. There's okay, not 6, 7s, 8s. Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, that was my main objective here, is to make you think actually this is in your control, because I just see a little bit too much of, oh, there's just a set number of schools, it's a low birth year, we'll just see what we've got, and actually that leads to then all of those difficult decisions. Whereas it's really good to see that actually, yeah, you guys are looking at this and thinking, I can do something, because the potential here is absolutely massive. When I spoke to Chris when he was recording that video, he said, I'm quite happy to do tours of the school because I know that could lead to £5,000 coming into my budget. Because if one pupil joins, that's 5,000 into your budget. If you can bring in 5 pupils, that's over 25,000, and 10 spaces is more than 50,000, and that's annually. So someone joining in reception then is there for potentially 7 years. And remember, the key thing that you need to do is reach those families who would have actually chosen you if only they got to see what makes your school special. So last question I'm asking in the chat is, are you ready? Are you committed to taking action to increase your pupil numbers? Do you want to do something so that next September you are looking at those numbers coming in, you're having the busiest open days you've ever run, and by the time you get to January, that you are seeing actually people are coming through and we are increasing our first choice applications? So put a yes in the chat if you are committed, if you want to take action to increase your pupil numbers. Amazing. Yes. Super. Fantastic, guys. I love it. Okay. Ed, Julie, Jeanette, Bex, Carla. Excellent. Lindsay, Lorna, Claire. Action takers. The number one thing I think I saw was that people who took action saw results. And so I mentioned this at the start, but I just want to offer, if you want my help to do this, you've seen what works, but knowing the plan and installing it are actually 2 very different things. And as I said, the one thing I know about head teachers, school leaders, is that you are pressed for time. So I've created the 90-day pupil numbers fix, especially for you. So it is my personal hands-on support to help you install that repeatable admission system in your school before the end of the spring term. So it's the same process that I used with Cara and Chris at Hollingwood, and Jackie and Joe at Howard, and Julie and Joanne at Cragside, where I help you identify your standout story. So what makes your school special? We work together to get your parent outreach system set up so that families can discover you. And then we build out that visit to application support pipeline. So how you support people at every step of the way. And you get implementation sessions on Zoom with me where we go through this. And actually, that was the bit that Chris and Sarah and several of others have said to me is the most useful thing, was just taking action, saying this is important, and I'm going to put in a 30-minute meeting every other week for, say, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, however long it takes us before spring to install this. They said having that protected time just meant, I know I'm going to do this. I've got the clear action I'm going to do and get it done so that I know I can start to make an impact. And then once we've done that and we've installed that system, you're also going to have access to 12 months of the First Choice School community. So this is the online platform where all the schools who are taking part in this are accessing all the tools and resources. So you can see the different schools. So we've got Michael there from St. Paul's, Alex at St. Bernadette's, Laura at the Heath Academy Trust is rolling this out to a number of different trust schools all in one. And within this community, we've got all of our course materials. We've got all of our group coaching program. The 90-day fix will be in here. But actually, we've got tasks each month that I support you to do. And we've got a library of tools as well. So when you get to anything, whether it's around using Facebook or Canva, actually, you can use those tools and guides and templates to implement them. So my core program is my support to get this set up, plus 12 months access to the school community. But I know that there's a few things that are going to hold you back from getting started. So I want to make sure you've got everything you need. So we're going to do an admissions reality check. So I'm going to quickly, within a week, research your catchment area, your competitors, your pupil number trends, and get this to you so that we can start from knowing exactly what your situation is. I'm going to do a website and social review and action plan for you. So looking at what your current setup is on those channels and what are the quick wins that you can implement, again, within a week. These are not going to be big redoing a website. You're not going to be appointing a new supplier. These are quick wins that enable you to make an instant impact. I've got the National Offer Day Recovery Plan. This is my special secret tactic that we ran at St. Augustine's and meant we had about 2 or 3 second and third choice applications actually switching and choosing us last year. It's all about running a particular event around Easter that makes us more attractive to those families who are considering us. We're going to do an in-year transfer playbook. So again, you're not just waiting until September to start doing open days again and get people in reception. We're going to look at how can we add people in year. And then finally, I've got a staff and governor briefing pack because it shouldn't just be you who does this. Okay, once we've kind of started that work on that standout story, you need to be able to have everyone on the same page so that everyone who is out there talking to people in the local community about your school is saying the same words that parents instantly understand and that drives them to actually come in and view the school. So I've lined that up. We've set everything we can to try and give you the tools to implement it quickly and save you time. And the investment today is just £2,995. And my guarantee, because look, I know you're in a situation where you need to have confidence that something's going to work for you. You can't be risking something that you're not sure if it's going to work. I've shown you how many schools have made an impact with this. But if you fully participate, you implement the system, and if we don't increase your first choice applications, then I will continue to work with you personally until we do. So no extra fees, no time limit. I'll stay with you to get your results. So the risk is on me. And the risk I'm taking is I'm fighting against this big drop-off in numbers. So it's a one-time fee of £2,995 to get my support this spring term. We'll install the system, and then you get 12 months of the first choice community where we can make sure we delegate it out, we support and upskill all of your staff so you can do it. And the reason why one pupil pays for everything is because if you can get one additional family in, then instantly that's £5,000 back into your budget. You paid for the program. And that one person will then be there potentially over 7 years. So the program can be paid for 12 times over by just getting one person. That's what did it for Chris. Chris said, if I sign up, I know that I can get this money back. So this is for heads, senior leaders who are worried about pupil numbers, schools who want a clear plan, not just a big long list of ideas and tactics. Someone who wants some support in implementing this and you don't want to do it alone again. And schools who are ready to prioritize increasing pupil numbers now. Who is this not for? So it's not for schools who just want a quick fix without taking action. There is stuff you have to do, but I'm going to make it as simple as possible for you to do that. It's not a general marketing course, and it's not for someone who is kind of not ready to prioritize pupil numbers this term. So I have 5 spaces. I can only work closely with 5 schools. And if you want to take part, then all you have to do is email me at chris@standoutschoolmarketing.com. I'm going to pop it in here. Or reply to the emails that you've got from me. Pop in the subject, the 90-day pupil numbers fix. What I will do is I will send you a quick questionnaire. It's just a few questions just to give me the information to go away and create for you that admissions reality check. Then we'll meet one-to-one. So I'll schedule a call with you. We'll go through that admissions reality check and we'll come up with your 90-day plan. At that point, if you decide that you don't want to continue, you don't think it's right for you, that's fine. You can go, you can take the audit, you can have the plan and implement it yourself. But if you do then choose to stay, then I'm going to be there every step of the way with you to make this as simple and easy as you to implement this and to make an impact. So the deadline for signing up is next Wednesday, the 4th of February, or once all those 5 spaces are filled. So if you're considering it, send me an email now, send me an email this afternoon, get it across. What I would say is don't miss the chance to make an impact by Easter. We have a moment now where actually there is still stuff we can do that will influence parents before National Offer Day, before they submit their offer. There is stuff that we can do to bring in-year transfers into your school. I look forward to hearing from you. But whether you go alone or you join the program, I hope you've now got a clear step-by-step system that should just give you that confidence to promote your school, get more visits booked in, and start boosting pupil numbers so you can secure your school and it can continue to be special going forwards. So we have a few more minutes. I appreciate some of you are going to have to get back out to the class. But if you've got a question, please pop it in the chat. Happy to answer any questions now, just while I take a swig of water. So any questions, let me know. While you're popping those in, I'll get the recording sent out for today's session. You should have the live bonus, which is in the chat there. Click on that. And yeah, I'll also upload that recording so you can access it ASAP. Let's have a quick look what in the chat we've got. Thank you, yeah, Eva and Claire, Amanda, Chris, thank you. Great, really helpful. Glad you found that useful. Super, amazing. Thank you, Sonia. Brilliant. Well, thank you to everyone, yeah, who's attended today. It was really great to see you. Beth says, I'm not in post until Easter. Do you have any other starting points in the year? I'm definitely going to be running one next autumn. I don't know yet whether we're running one in the summer, but send me an email, Beth, and we can I can share what we're looking at, or I'll share some of the resources you might want to have in place for when you do start in Easter. Tim says, thank you. Beck says, what do you think is the best social media platform for parents? Best social media platform for parents is Facebook. And ultimately, it is where the majority of your audience still are. And when you set up on Facebook, actually, you also get Instagram as well. And the way I teach it when we look at reaching parents is there is a very simple way to set up those channels, which don't require you to do lots of ongoing promotion and lots of ongoing content, but just utilize their targeting to make sure you can get your message in front of the vast majority of prospective parents in your local area. Yeah, if I have to pick one, I say Facebook, but inside the First Choice school community, I talk about that. So Sarah says, what happens after the initial one-to-one session? So one-to-one session, what we will do is we'll just look through your pupil numbers, your admissions audit, and we will come up with a plan. So which is like, what do we need to do to install the system? So we'll then plan out, how do we do work to create the standout story? What do you need to do to set up those outreach channels? So if you have Facebook set up or if you don't have it set up, there's different things that we can do. And what needs to be put in place in terms of that parent support. And we'll do that through a series of Zoom calls. So we can either run those week to week or every other week, but you'll just protect a little bit of time each week where we will meet on Zoom and I'll run through each of those different steps we'll make sure that you have the chance then to make it work for your school. And then in the week between, I'll give you feedback. So if you're updating your website or if you're creating a new Facebook ad, I'll give you that feedback so that we can craft it, get it right. And then the next week, we'll move on to the next step. So Sarah, we will do one-to-one, then a series of Zoom calls where we get it installed. And then you'll go onto the First Choice School platform where you'll have all of the tools to support going forward, as well as the community support function where once we've finished installing it, actually every week I'm running office hours events where you can drop in and get support as we go. We've got other schools going through it who are utilizing the platform and are sharing what they're doing to learn. I hope that answered that one. Our areas are predicted 45% empty replaces in the year time. Could you have an impact on this? 45% is what we're seeing on that downward trend. So absolutely, there are going to be less families that you can reach over the next 3 years. So the best thing you can do to take control of this is do your absolute best to showcase what it is that makes your school special, get more of those potential parents to consider your school and support more of them to choose you. So in some schools, if all we can do is perhaps try and keep you and hold you at where you are, then that's going to be a win. Because if you don't take action, then that 45% will definitely transfer straight in to your numbers and they will just continue to drop off. So I hope that helps T. April says, our problem is that children are not in the community. Local towns have hundreds of houses built and there is no land in Brandon. The children are not in the community. Okay, so it's not that you've got local community, you've got local towns. So April, am I right thinking you're trying to reach more people out of there, out of the local area and get them to come in? If that's the case, then it is definitely worth considering the reason why you may be a destination school. So again, what is it about your school that is going to make it worth someone thinking, you know what, actually, I'm going to make the effort to travel there and go this because of X. And actually what St. Augustine saw is because of the way they'd set up their forest school and some of the other aspects of it that they were showcasing, they started getting people traveling from quite far to come in to join that school. And actually, they made the decision that it was worth it based on how well the school was showcased. C. Davis says, would this work within a trust of independent schools? Yeah, I've had quite a few independent schools who are interested. Again, this is not a list of marketing tactics. This is a plan where I try and give you the 4 things to focus on so that you don't spend your time doing loads of stuff that you don't know has an impact. It is about really trying to clarify what is the message we want to get out there to our kind of potential parents. How are we going to do that? And how do we make sure that actually we're not missing anyone? We're not having anyone drop out of that process because we haven't been proactive in supporting them. So yeah, very happy for C. Davis to have a chat about how it might work for your setup. Within trusts generally, as I said, we've had several trusts take part, and it obviously works really well when you have a number of trusts that you're trying to roll this out to, because it's a standard approach. We can bring all those schools up to the same level by combining that. So if you're in a trust, let me know. I'm happy to have a chat about that. Any more questions? No, we're all good. So you've got my email. I'll pop in here the live bonus again. Janet, awesome. Thank you. Yep, I'll get straight back to you on that. Lovely. Look forward to hearing from more of you. And yeah, hope you go away, have a good rest of your day, and go away feeling a bit more confident that this is in your control. You can make an impact. Thank you, everyone.